Unfortunately, society, our upbringing, culture has taught us to be in this grind, to be in this hamster wheel and never stop. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to my weekly videos. I am Vassia if you're new here. I'm a psychologist specialized in helping professionals and entrepreneurs managing anxiety and perfectionism. And today's video will be exactly about connecting the dots between anxiety and perfectionism. I'm going to talk about 5 crucial signs that your anxiety might come from perfectionism. So let's start with the question. Have you had this feeling that no matter how hard you try, and I know you try really hard, I know that you are unstoppable, you try the whole day long, plus even when you're sleeping. And even though you're trying that hard, it feels like it's never good enough. Do you have that feeling? Or maybe you're constantly worrying about not only the possibility of mistakes, but also the impact that these mistakes will have in your life, in your career, in your relationships, in what other people might think. Well, if that resonates with you, stick around because that might be some of the signs that your anxiety come from perfectionism, is driven by perfectionism. Let me start with the first sign, the overly critical self-talk. Perfectionists have a very strong inner critic, and the most recurring thought and belief that we have about ourselves is, I'm not enough, or whatever we do is not enough, or these self-questioning, why didn't I try more? Why can I not get this right? Why did I not do more? So this inner dialogue is relentless and really harsh. Even though you have done something, you have accomplished something, and it's important, this mindset, the perfectionistic mindset, doesn't allow you to see that or to attribute importance on those accomplishments. Actually, the opposite. The self-critical mindset is making you minimize your accomplishments and things that you have done and things that you have succeeded in, and maximize the importance or the impact of all the things you haven't done. So you see a very distorted perception of reality, right? So, what I want to ask you before I move to the second sign is take a moment to reflect and see how often you criticize yourself. How often do you do that? Do you judge yourself because you didn't wake up the time you said you would wake up, or that you didn't have everything prepared, the lunch for everybody in the family, or that you forgot to reply to an email and then you come home? You judge yourself because you spent too little time playing with your children, or maybe too much time playing with your children, and then other house chores were left behind. Do you see, in perfectionism, you can never get it right. Either you're doing too little of this thing or the same thing, or too much of the same thing. Whatever you do is wrong. That's perfectionism. So, how often do you criticize yourself? And would you talk to the same way to a friend? That's another question. Would you be so relentlessly critical to them? There's one thing of recognizing my mistakes, and it's another thing of being relentlessly judgmental to myself or to somebody else. Would you say these things? Second sign, fear of failure. And fear of failure in combination with a specific characteristic of perfectionistic thinking, which is the all or nothing thinking. So, what I mean with that, not only we are afraid as perfectionists, we're afraid of mistakes, but also we equate mistakes with disaster. That's the all or nothing thinking. This is why we are afraid of failure, because we equate it with disaster, with personal failure, with total unworthiness. We're just sweeping everything that we have achieved and calling it all a failure. And that, of course, already just by saying it, creates a lot of fear, creates a lot of anxiety. It can be paralyzing, and it can stop you from taking risks or trying new things. So think about it. Have you ever avoided an opportunity? Like, for example, you are at a team meeting and you want to say your opinion, but you're afraid how this is going to sound like, or whether you're going to face rejection. So you avoided an opportunity because you were afraid that you wouldn't be perfect. You wouldn't accomplish it in a perfect way. And that if you wouldn't accomplish it in a perfect way, you couldn't handle that. Have you had that feeling like that's going to be very overwhelming if I make a mistake? So it's better not to try it at all. How did that make you feel? Now, let's go to the third sign that your perfectionism leads to anxiety, and that is procrastination. Procrastination and perfectionism, I always say that it's like twins, it's like the same coin, different side. Perfectionists can procrastinate because they are overwhelmed of the expectations that they put on everything they want to take action. I'm not going to say accomplish because sometimes it's not even an accomplishment. You even want to, I don't know, organize your closet. That's not an accomplishment. But even for that, you are putting so many expectations on yourself and so much pressure on yourself, and it has to be perfect. And we need to have the perfect plan, and we need to finish everything in one day. Whew, it's a lot. And just because we put all these expectations, we get overwhelmed. And then when we get overwhelmed, our brain does what's proper to do, shuts down. We're not going to do anything, procrastinate. So, because we're afraid of starting a task, because we've put so many expectations, because we want to complete it perfectly, that delay only adds to the anxiety and the stress, and especially when deadlines approach. So, a question for you again. Do you see that? Do you see that you put off tasks because you're waiting for the perfect moment, or because you want to have the perfect plan, or because it has to be done uh, in 1 hour, in one go, and because you have to see all the posts on Pinterest on how to do it before you start? Do you see that? Do you feel that overwhelm? The next sign that I would like to talk about is the element of difficulty in delegating, or in other words, in controlling. As perfectionists, we learn that we feel safe, or we think we feel safe, when we have our ducks in a row. This is when we feel that if we don't do something ourselves, it's not going to be done perfectly. So we have to intervene. We have to show everybody how it's done. We have to have the overview. Otherwise, it will not be done right. So, again, you can see that how this leads to overworking. We are engaged with everything that happens around us. We don't trust other people that they will do a good job about it. Of course, not to mention that this affects the relationships we have with others when we don't trust them. But that's another video. So we try to control every detail. We send reports back and forth, controlling every little word of these reports. We want to be involved in all projects just to make sure that everybody's doing it correctly. So the controlling aspect and the difficulty delegating can be very stressful. And then this is how it adds to anxiety and stress. Last but not least, and this is something that, yeah, many times we forget, is that perfectionists find it difficult to ask for help. One thing that for sure alleviates our anxiety, relieves us from feelings of struggling all alone, is when we know that we have support, when we know that if something happens, there's going to be somebody to have our back. That already makes us feel safer. Now, perfectionists, they don't feel comfortable with asking for help. Why? Because, first of all, they're building a facade, an image that they can do everything by themselves. They are perfect. They never struggle. Everything is okay. They have it together. So they're building this image that they don't need anybody. But also, they're building another side of this image that they are there for others. They are not going to burden people with their own. They are there for others. This is how you show how perfect you are. Not only you can manage your own reality, but also you can help other people. So you can see how counterintuitive that is in asking for help and consequently in managing anxiety. There we are, struggling by ourselves, offering help to others, never daring to ask for help or even to share that this is too much for us or that we are struggling. And that means that all the stress stays inside us. All the anxiety stays in our head, and we don't have anybody to share it with. And that adds to the mental overwhelm, the overthinking, because we don't share it with anybody else. Now, if you see yourself in these signs, you're not alone. Eh? We are many here. Join the Perfectionism Club. It's important to remind yourself that you're not alone. And unfortunately, society, our upbringing, culture has taught us to be in this grind, to be in this hamster wheel and never stop. But here you are, you're reflecting, you're changing, you are learning. And there are ways that we can manage and reduce this anxiety. I am going to give you, of course, a little bit of a direction now, of an idea. What stops these highly self critical mindset, the all or nothing, the procrastination, the overwhelm, the allowing ourselves to ask for help is to build resilience. And building resilience, of course, can have a million ways to do that. But some of the ways can be reframing your mindset, changing the way you talk to yourself, the way you see failure, as we have seen many times, setting realistic goals, but also, most importantly, practicing self compassion. If you hear this term for the first time, I know it sounds cheesy. That was my reaction the first time that I heard it, but I can guarantee for sure, I've tried it myself. I've tried it with my clients. When you treat yourself with the same kindness that you would offer to a friend, to your child, then your mistakes or your tasks will not be seen as overwhelming as they are seen through the perfectionistic filter. So, imperfection is part of being a human, and this is what we're learning. And we're growing more through imperfection than through perfectionism. And let's take this first step together towards a calmer and more fulfilling life. Thank you very much for watching. If you find this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend, with another perfectionism that is waiting, and subscribe to the channel for more content on how to manage anxiety and perfectionism. So take care, and remember, perfection is not the goal, progress is. See you next time.